Hello, I'm Tim Adcock. I'm one of the Battlefront miniature designers. I have been working for Battlefront now for 6 years. I now make miniatures using digital computer. When I first started working here, I used to make everything by hand, and over the last two and a half years, that world has changed, and I now make things virtually.
You're heavily involved in the Team Yankee and Brit releases.
Yes, yeah. Let's say Team Yankee, I made the Abrams, T-72, pretty much all the tanks. We have another chap called Will, who is also in the UK, and he makes helicopters. He helps out. Again, he helped out on Team Yankee. Helped with the Striker Scorpion. That was like a joint project. Lots to do in a very short period of time. So data can be pinged around the world very quickly, and also to other offices. So it's a useful workflow that wise.
What's kind of involved in making a tank?
The first part of the process is the brief, the document, the desire. That will come from New Zealand. That will be rules will be written. Major discussions will be happening in New Zealand in the studio, and a wish list will probably be created. On that wish list will be whittled down to what's going to be viable in the space of time, what's going to have some of the rule of cool, and also then from there, how does the model get made? So the chieftain's a good example. Initially, the brief would be we're making a chieftain. Then it's what mark, how are we gonna break the kit down? What are the options on the kit? BMP example, we did 1 and 2 in the frame. So you then start to juggle with the actual design and parameters of the actual project. What are the options on and off? Are there more than one vehicle out of the frame? And so these things will drive you to a decision. In that process, we do a mock-up of a plan document of what the lists of parts will be. That's usually enables us to see what size frame will be designed. So we do a lot of preemptive work driven by the studio. That all gets agreed in the New Zealand studio by the team there, and if it's then sort of like, yeah, that's a goer, I then get onto the process of actually making the model.
Well, you mentioned that you're all on the computer now.
Yeah.
You've completely changed how you do things.
Yeah.
Could you show us a little bit of it?
Yeah. What we have here is the actual model I've made, but in the process, in the process is, again, my boss would say I'm just a glorified tracer, but a bit harsh, but quite funny. Again, in the process is we try to find a set of plans of the model we're making. So so we have to go to reference points first of all. There are a series of model books out there, the websites, and also pooled information. From my sins, and I think probably anyone who does wargaming and military modelling has a very large pool of books and magazines and stuff, and we just trawl through that. An example on the chieftain. This is one little place. The Mafia magazines. There's a steel brew turret, and that just having that information in itself, even though that just helps with the design process without having to give us a dating point. These will be rescaled. We create bitmaps. A bitmap is basically a drawing on anywhere. So you place a drawing on.
Okay.
And we trace around it. So you're right, Gordon. I'm just a tracer.
So how do you bring that into a 3D?
Create a series of curves. So Rhino is basically a giant dot-to-dot machine. Yeah, okay, well, a surface modeler, but you create lines and you then create surfaces in between. It's a void modeler.
So that must be a really involved process.
It's one where you just got to do it a lot.
Can you show us the finished model?
Yeah, of course can. Building sub-assemblies. So
okay,
you plan your parts at the beginning of the project, knowing that the model is going to be broken down into X amount of parts. So left side, right side, mud guards, tracks, gun, top hull, bottom hull, and you build it in sub-assemblies.
So for us less well versed in this, you're creating separate parts for each track and whatnot, and then you bring it all together as one.
Yeah, you're creating a virtual model, and one of the problems with the virtual model is you can make it so big that actually you're overrepresenting what you're seeing. One of the constraints, you can even make something you think is really, really large, and it's not actually, because in reality it's no bigger than your hands, and it's the depth perception is a real big thing on them.
Okay.
And that's interesting because you have to sort of like gauge that through experience.
Yeah. How do you keep the essence and the detail of a 50-ton tank down into a little tiny 15mm miniature?
You find the core elements, the core features that make so big gun, top detail, tracks, heavy tracks, and you look at the size of rivet details, panel lines, and you'd overemphasize those, because these you are not really making a scale model. You're making something within a scale and with a within a parameter of size. So the outside dimensions, the length of the gun, the general height, are usually within sort of like 0.1, 0.2 of a millimetre of the actual scale. But inside that elements, you emphasise elements slightly over. So you're overemphasising panel lines. You may put less louvers on a grille section. You pull out detail on the bazooka plates where you can't see the little squares and things. You pull things out so and overemphasise elements so they'll pick up paint, and you're making hard edges more pronounced. So when you put a wash over it, it will create an edge and look nice, and looks nice on the table. It has to look cool on the table. If it doesn't look cool on the table and hasn't got the rule of cool, that's a very important aesthetic. Also, you've got to build a model which is actually easy to make. As a hobbyist, the last thing you want to do is want a problematic build which puts you off building the next model. After I make the data, we get a rapid prototype made, and the rapid prototype is there to help us to see if it looks nice, if it's the right size, if the detail's crisp and pronounced enough, and if the thing goes together well. The fit and function basically is a very important driver of our models. I want the model to go together as an enjoyable experience for the hobbyist or the gamer, But part of that is also the fact is, as soon as you're stuck the model together, you also want to be able to play with the model so it doesn't fall apart in your hand as well. So trying to find the right solutions to make it easy for the customer to make. The Leopard's an example of that. We saw the 72 smoke discharges, didn't particularly like the way it worked, but it didn't work well enough. It wasn't quite there. But with the smoke discharges on the Leopard, we put them on side panels. That was a conscious decision to make it for an easier build. So sometimes smaller parts, even though they have the detail, you have to create a larger part for it to glue onto a model. So you have to look at a split per se on the model.
That leads into, once you've got the full model with all the parts put together and you've decided the sizes of everything to emphasise what you can and take away what you can't. How do you break that up and put it on a sprue?
Again, part of the process at the beginning of the project is to actually look at the split line. You are constrained by how the part's going to fit into a mould. So you look at how the part's going to sit in the mould and which way the main detail is going to be attacked. So you break the model down into its components. We've got a frame like this. We try to add a little extra. We want to add a little extra detail on there, so we add extra parts. There's fuel cans, a few extra boxes. Trying to add a variant. So not every single tank is always the same. You can add your own little stowage. And hopefully, eventually, we will get to the point where we will be adding some sort of bed rolls and stuff. But again, we've done something slightly different with the Scimitar Strikers and Spartans. We've actually managed to add a man onto the frame, and that's a little step forward for us as a business. instead of having the separate frames which we've designed and been taught traditionally by pantography by the erstwhile people in down in Wisbeach. Right, that's the Chieftain. The next one, which I haven't quite talked about yet, 432. So again, we've got swing fire on there, and we've got
three variants, right?
Yeah, there's the mortar, swing fire, and the basic troop carrier. So, and again, I think this is the actual first time, other than resin, I think it's the first time anyone's actually made in any scale a 432 in plastic. Could be wrong. I'm not 100%, but I'm sure that's been referenced a couple of times in conversations, and it's an English British solution for the 113 at the end of the day. And even though this variant's not actually what's in service now, British Army have cannibalised this to make what we now call the Bulldog, which was used in Afghanistan. So the bones of this is 40 years on and still being sort of like driven around. The Chieftain kit. We have the Steel Brew turret on there, so we've got both types, but that gives you a slightly armoured, and again that's a very distinctive sort of like shape change, and that was one of the drivers of the kit. We knew we couldn't put two complete turrets on there, but we wanted to do something slightly different with the top turret, and that was one of the options on this. The Scorpion Strike Scimitar, as he drops on the floor. As I said, one thing about I can't drop the computer. Both variants on there with the guy as well, and we also have Striker Spartan as well, which comes out of its own little frame as well. Which is
swing fire system.
Yeah. I think there's also an anti-aircraft hatch for that as well. Again, nice little model, sort of like Will that done. 50% of that tracks on the bottom bit, then he's finished the project off and stuff. He's done a nice job on that, and Will also made the links, which is a really nice model. And again, I think that'll be a few of those floating around in airborne units,
definitely,
and stuff. So if you've got any Royal Marines or Paras later on somewhere in the line, I imagine there'll be sort of like specialist things. So yeah, that's what we've been sort of quite busy with the Team Yankee stuff. And Evan's done the resonant metal, so I think there's a Harrier and track rapier and various other bits and bobs like that. So a nice big plastic range, which is good.
We should be seeing more plastics in the future.
Yes, yeah, we're busy. Let's just say at this moment in time, I can't tell you what they are, but we got lots and lots.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
For your time.
Cheers.